Welcome to The Business End. Today's episode is about something many people feel but rarely say out loud: how hard it is to sustain performance over a long career when the system around you is still catching up. Our guest is Rocky Clark, MBE, England's most capped front row forward and probably the second most capped rugby international and a Rugby World Cup winner. But this isn't conversation about medals. It's about longevity, standards, and what it really takes to keep showing up when conditions aren't perfect and pressure never goes away. Rocky, it's great to have you on the show with us.
Absolutely delighted to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Welcome, Rocky. Well, as you say, let's crack on. Rocky, as Liam said there, 137 caps for England, most capped forward ever in men's and women's games. People assume that resilience just happened, but to stay in the game for such a long period of time, what did that day-to-day reality look like for you staying at the top of the game?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that drive. It was a 15-year career, so you have to evolve and be open to learning new things and be one of the biggest things, I guess, is being comfortable in the uncomfortable. I know it's a cliche, but that ability to have the drive to keep working, even though you think you're at the top, there's always more you can do, and just keep changing your angles of what it looks like. So as I developed over my career, my strengths continuously changed. I had that like standard what I was about running through, but then you have to change about like my role from being a young pup with loads of energy running around and smashing everything to then being more of a clever player, more of a technical player, more of a leadership role. Having that ability to have reflection, see where you are and what you can bring is really important.
And did that come to you naturally, that sort of curiosity to improve, to evolve, or were there individuals in your life that sort of encouraged that development within you off the field?
Yeah, I guess I mean I still have it now. I'm still playing sort of lower level rugby and enjoying it. So I've still got that drive despite being in my 40s and wanting to run around to do what I can do on a pitch. But back then, over that time, the drive has always been there. It's always been, how can I improve? How can I also, I want to keep ahead of the rest. So how can I still be important, even if I'm not, the best ball carrier or the best whatever? For me, it was about doing the right thing at the right time and understanding what my role is. That's a massive thing, and how you can also make other people be better. So if there's somebody in a who's a line breaker, for example, say like a Sarah Byrne, am I best to receive the ball, get a little tip on for her? I take the tackle, essentially. She gets the line break. But knowing your strengths and other people's is a massive thing, and trying to make the best from the group or the organisation to work. And then I guess all of my drive comes from my mum, who's a really strong, independent woman who, unfortunately, she's gone through two bereavements. My dad when I was 11, and then my stepdad just before the semi-final, actually, in the 2017 World Cup. So that was really hard. But I guess to see her pick herself up, still providing for her family, still moving forward, gave me that, lessons that life still continues, whatever's thrown at you, and how can you make the best of a bad situation, and how can you make it into a strength?
Fair enough. Sounds like an incredible role model.
Yeah, and it's great to have as well. Great to have on the show. Always good to have the front row people on because they always provide the most intellectual comments on everything. So I was going to raise on the show earlier was Ben Franks, and Ben Franks talked about the competition in sport, and he would say it was just relentless with the All Blacks. And he said he often felt exhausted. Now, you carried on through that, and did you ever? I mean, what was the toll on that physically, mentally, and emotionally to keep going? And how did you work through it? That potential exhaustion.
Yeah, it's a great question, because it never dawned on me to not. It was always right. Next thing. I never I never went, oh, I've achieved that, I can stop now. It was all about what's next. What can I strive for? What can I keep pushing towards? And it obviously took its toll on the body in terms of I've I've still got a bad back, unsurprisingly, and I'm stiff in my neck in the mornings. And when you bend to put your socks on, it's not an
Gets
easy
worse,
feat, I have
Rocky.
to say.
It gets a lot.
Awesome. I can't wait. But then, I guess in terms of physically, then no, what do I need to do? Like, one of my secret weapons is a hot bath. I know it's ridiculous, but a hot bath just kept me loose as a goose, and I felt like a new woman, being able to sort of move and be mobile. Having a really good relationship with physios really helped, and to have those conversations like, what do I need to do to be able to get to the World Cup? And how do we manage my load? What are the priorities? So towards the end of the career, I did a lot more off feet sessions. The running theme through this is I gave it 100% every time I trained. So it was, what can I do to the best of my ability? So, and it's commitment to it. And then mentally, there was really testing times in terms of losing two World Cup finals. Was really, really tough. That first time felt like you'd had your heart ripped out. It was like when you've had your first breakup, when you've been in love, and you think that's the end of the world. No, nothing. You're never going to be happy again. And naturally, pretty quick, I was like, right, what's the drive? The drive is to win the next World Cup. Keep going, make myself better, and then look forward rather than keep looking back. You obviously are aware of those shortfalls, but that for me just served, it stoked the fire. It got me even more focused to achieve the heights that I wanted to. But there was times when you're dropped, when training's hard, you think, oh, is this worth it? And hell yeah, it was. Like it was, even though you have to crawl through and you have to have a word with yourself, rely on your mates. It's all about the bigger picture, I guess.
Who was I talked about this week. Who's the cultural gatekeeper in the England team? So when you're all under pressure and you're feeling a bit burnt out, who would you speak to? Were there people within the squad that would help each other? Was the pressure load on the players, or was it on the coaching staff?
The pressure was high, but probably the worst pressure was the pressure I put on myself. But then I'm somebody who is quite chilled in some respects, in terms of like trying to switch off and have a laugh. Like, on the bus journey to a game, I'd still be having a laugh. Whereas some people have got their headphones on, they're really focused and they're in the zone, they don't want to talk. Whereas I'm still having banter at the back of the bus with those who want it. But then as soon as you like get in a changing room, cross the whitewash, I'm in it. I don't know, I can just flick the switch, and it's really mad to be able to do that, because I know a lot of people can't. But yeah, so when times got tough, I'd speak to teammates, like some of the older heads, like Tamara Taylor. She's one of the Golden Girls. We do a lot of fundraising events together. There's four of us, and Amy Garnett as well, another, both fellow Centurions, and Donna Kennedy, who plays for Scotland. But you lean on those guys, Rachel Burford, Nolly Waterman, your teammates who've been through it. You're there for them as well. They've been through those hardships, and you can be really raw and honest. But then but you've also got to be seen to be driving standards and giving everything when you're on the pitch, because there's younger, impressionable players in the squad who are looking up to you. So there's time for that, like, lack of confidence. Life is really tough, and then there's time for, right, let's zip up the suits. We're on. Let's go. Let's lead. Let's take these girls into battle.
So if you're absolutely on your knees, knackered, would you go to the head coach and say, I'm knackered? I'm just trying to give people. Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. And if the head coach said take a week off, what would be your gut reaction? You need a week off, Rocky. What would you think?
I'd think I'll tailor my training. I'll try and get a bit more downtime. But it's mad, even though I retired in 2018 internationally, I still, when I go on holiday, I still have to train, and because I feel guilty. I guess there's a lot of guilt driven as well in terms of that. But
this is such a
and I'm a
massive
prop
point.
as well, so I like my food and drink, so I still want to keep in shape. So there's that extra incentive. Having that, ability to to fully stop is not a strength of mine, I have to say. Maybe it's my rest looks like still doing stuff.
That's normal. It's perfectly normal, but it's a really important point you make for business, because like you know, when people are feeling the strain, the last person they want to speak to is boss, because it's, if you're a competitive person. So like we're saying, like, the invisible glue in any organization is your peers, and that's where you can share the load. But yeah, no, it's a massively important point, and actually it takes you into the mindset of an elite performer, because if you ask an elite performer to slow down, the gut reaction is no way. I want to keep
Yeah.
going, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
great.
And that's massive. You see it in business all the time, like people wanting to get to the top and they give absolutely everything. They're last out the office, they're first in, they're taking work home all the time. Like, same in rugby, you can't train 24 hours a day. You do need that. Sometimes you need somebody to pull you back a bit, because you're just giving so much. You get lost in actually like taking a breath, looking at what you're doing. So in terms of a rugby week, that would be, so instead of maybe absolutely throwing myself around a rugby pitch or nailing myself in the gym, it might be, right, what can I do differently to keep me still mentally stimulated and active, but without absolutely killing myself? So it might be going to play a round of golf, or going rock climbing for a bit of fun, or something just different, but keeps you mentally and physically ticking over.
Yeah, it's actually another important point, because we don't think about that. Rugby, you have cycles, don't you? In the week, you ease down before the game, and that's naturally you don't get that in business. So that's important as well. We often neglect that point, really.
Yeah, I
Absolutely,
mean,
yeah. I think in anything you do, you need to be able to have that reflection, and that it's peaks and troughs, and you need to like ride through the tough times and keep going. But then you need to sometimes pull the brakes on and take your foot off the gas a little bit and just be present and reflect on where you are and not be so immersed. And it's a really, really tough thing to do if you're so driven. But that is equally as important. Like I talked about giving 100% on the on the pitch, in the training paddock, but then you need to give yourself 100% when you go and take that long bath, or do some mindfulness, or feet up, or go and hang out with your mates. Be present in that, because it makes you better in the long run on the pitch or in business.
yeah, very true. So I mean, incredible career, 15 years, as you've just mentioned there. Obviously, some testing times, through 4 World Cup cycles, some incredible moments. Was there ever, even just for a glimmer, a moment where you thought, okay, I'm gonna step away now, before you actually did, over that 15-year period? Be honest.
I guess maybe
You
in
know
the
the answer. We know
yeah,
the
it was
answer.
never it was never I'm gonna yeah, I'm done. It was always, or if I got dropped, or I was starting to sort of move towards playing on the bench, it was always that strive. Well, I'm getting back up there. I'm getting back to where I want to be. Even
Mhm,
even in my 15th year, and that was a conversation rather than, it wasn't fully my choice. I knew I was getting towards the end of my career, but it was,
mhm.
I'd have still probably still tried to rattle out now, like, but also what I didn't want to do is become one of those players that everyone's going, she really should retire. So it was about getting that balance right. But yeah, I was always fully driven to the next thing. And maybe that's that little point of difference as to why I had that such a long career, that because it was, like I said earlier, what's important next? How can I be better? What can I do
Mhm.
now? Because when we won the 2014 World Cup, everyone was like, "You've done everything. Well, what's the point of carrying on?" I was like, "Because I love it. Like, that's it. Because I am so passionate about pulling on the white shirt, and everything that goes into it. Those training weeks, those hanging out with your mates. Those I love being up against it. I used to play for Henley when they're in the Premiership, and we get beat 90-0 every week. I loved it. I was like, bring it on, bring on the challenge. Like, what does success look like when you're getting your head kicked in, week out? Actually, it's me carrying 15 times and getting over the gain line every time, or making some big hits. You can, even if you're in a really low place in terms of the team or business, or you're up against it, what are the positives you can take from it? What are the learnings? Because I think that made me a better player in the long run, being able to deal with that pressure, being able to deal with being on the back foot and everybody flying at you. Actually, I was pretty calm in a stressful situation in a World Cup final, up against it in France, in Six Nations. You're a point ahead, that kind of thing. It just gave me more strength and power, I guess.
Sorry, go on, Fitzy, you ask.
I was just going to say that you touched upon, in that 15th year of conversation, was that a teammate? Was that a friend? Was that a captain? Was that a coach that had you? What did that look like?
Yeah, it was with the coaches, and there was the option whether I didn't have to retire, but it was about, they were selecting the squad of 40 players. There were still going to be some extra players, but they were going to start to look to the future. So I could have hung on and hoped, or trained hard, but realistically, would I've got to another World Cup? Probably not, and unless I was lucky with injuries or whatever, and I would have been, I don't know, like 40 then or something. And it was I just didn't want to be, people are saying like, it's about time now. I didn't want to get to that. So maybe I could have got a couple more caps, and but I certainly wouldn't have been there in that long term thing. So it was just right. It's time to go now, and I did it on my own terms then, rather than some people just disappeared and never got the acknowledgement and thank yous that they deserve. So it was the right time then to do it. And well, that was really hard, and I'm not going to lie, retirement was really difficult in the first few years. But hard thing to sort of navigate, and you lose your purpose. And I guess that happens in retirement in business, or if you lose your job or something, and you think, oh, what can I do? Like I was Rocky Clark, the England player. I'm not anymore. What am I now? What's my purpose now? And you can still see I've got that drive. I'm commentating. I'm after dinner speaking, keynote speaker, all of that. I want to be the best version of me I can, but being authentic and bringing my personality to it, whether it be on comms or in front of people on the stage. It's about showing how passionate you are, as well as capturing people and being yourself. I would probably say the environment really helps. And that team where we lost in 2010, and it was a home World Cup, and I'd have bet my house on it we'd have won, because we'd beaten New Zealand in 2009, where we lost by 3 points. But New Zealand were very clever. They killed our game. We were probably the better team in that year, but they knew how to stop us. We had such threats out in the wide channels. They just killed our breakdown, so we couldn't get quick ball and all of that. But I guess the ability to be able to thrive off that environment. Like if you've got a good team and everybody's working towards that same goal, and you have fun along the way, but you're honest as well, and you have those difficult conversations. Like you've got to be able to say, yeah, you take responsibility. My bad, I mucked up that line out. But also you've got to be comfortable calling somebody out and the same back, and not take it personally. Like you've got to be able to reflect and be honest rather than get defensive. And then the other thing was, the drive. Now you can see post retirement, I'm still like, right, how can I be the best commentator? How can I be the best speaker? And it's all about, again, just keep looking forward. That's a real big thing for me, because if you get too caught up on the past, you can you can go stale or sit still and not keep moving forward. Even though there's hard things along the way, you might have a poor or event or something. There's with women in sport and business, there's a massive thing about imposter syndrome, where you think am I supposed to be here? I've played in a male dominated sport or area for so long, and people say, did that test my resilience? And I'm like, no, it made it. Like it built it. It was all about leaning into it, taking stuff head on, I guess. And learning from it, and helping that pump my tires up is a big thing, and supporting each other.
Yeah, it's a very important message for anyone that's retiring from professional sport is to find a new focus basically, and then just go for it. I mean, how do you set yourself targets, or I mean, how do you keep the drive going in a new area, I suppose?
Yeah, I guess I try something. I think like that. What can I do next to improve and to push up? Like, I'd love to be a mainstream commentator and as high as I can in the media, but that's tough now. I retired 8 years ago now internationally, and so your face isn't still quite as prominent as some of the current world champions. So you're up against it, but that's competition. I'm like, bring it on. Like, but again, like I said, it's really important you bring your authenticity to it, because if you try and be something you're not, you're going to get found out.
Yeah.
So it's the same, but I still have to keep driving, keep trying to put myself in the right spaces, keep making sure I'm current. Social media and being a bit of a technophobe are quite difficult, but then if you look on my Instagram and stuff, you'll see that I'm not scared to make an idiot of myself. I'm not scared to have those difficult conversations, to talk about mental health, as I've had some struggles along the way, and doing silly TikTok dances with the youngsters. That's the bit that keeps you young and fresh, and just having a laugh and being in the moment. That's the key
Yeah.
thing.
Very much so. So over the course of your 15-year career as an English international, the game evolved a lot. There were, in fairness to the RFU, they seemed to be, at least from the outside looking in, at the leading edge of professionalising the women's games. What did that look like inside? How did that change? How did that affect you? What did you learn along the way?
Yeah, throughout my time, obviously, when I first started playing, you actually had to pay to go into England camp. You had to give, like, I think it was 25 quid towards stuff because there was just no money. And then you saw, obviously, brands and sponsorship came in, and you started getting names. And it was the 2010 World Cup where Maggie Alfonsi burst onto the scene because she was a face recognised with women's rugby exists, and she's the face of it then. And now we're into like the Ellie Kildones, the Ilona Mars, all of that, which is absolutely fabulous. But stuff that made the difference, obviously, cutting edge strength and conditioning, having people who are passionate about helping others. So the guys that came in were all about what's the best for us, rather than using us as a stepping stone and how can they get to their next big thing. Actually, they really, really cared and made a difference. And I think if you know the individual, what makes them tick, and their strengths and weaknesses, and having that two-way conversation about how's the best we can get you to this level, or you're not quite there, or like for the coaches to be able to say, like, we've gone with player whoever, you're not there to be able to compete or be there. We need to see this. And sometimes it's just a gut feeling coaches have, but utilizing, like, the latest stats and S&C, different protocols, having the best equipment, the best facilities. Like, it did keep evolving, and now you're seeing, like, the team now training at Penny Hill Park, having those facilities at hand, and it's all about making the best of what you've got, and everybody pushing forward. And I think now we've got the attention of the world, and it's not where it needs to be, but we've certainly broken down barriers, and we're a lot more mainstream than we were. And it's just we've got to keep pushing. We can't be happy with where we are. We can't. And that was the same for me when I was in my shirt. I was number one. I'd been picked there, I don't know, in a row like 40 times. I could be comfortable, or I could be like, right, I don't want somebody to catch me up, or I want to be better than XYZ. What can I do? So it's getting the leading edge stuff, and having the right people behind the scene and in the squad to be able to make that happen.
So, two questions I've got. One is on leadership, and then I'll go on to standards in a minute. So you've got a vast amount of years playing elite level sport, and you would have played for a number of different coaches or captains. Could you tell me what it's like when you get a leader or a captain on paper, but they've got no authority in the team? Have you ever had that?
When they don't have authority.
Yeah. So, and what would make them lack that authority amongst the team?
I think, firstly, to be a good rugby player or a good coach or a good S&C or a good captain, the first thing you've got to have is be a good human, like to care about others, to help people, but also have that confidence to have those tough conversations and know when to rein somebody in, but also know when to pump somebody's tires up and give them a bit of free rein. So some of the best captains I've worked with haven't, it's not all been about control thing. It's not been, I'm doing all the team talks, I'm making all the decisions, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm the face of everything. It's about, actually, Kat, right, can you do the team talk here? Or can you rally the troops? Whatever. And also having that that understanding to utilize each other's strengths. For example, Catherine Spencer, ex-England captain, used to say, like, look at me and give me a nod, and then I'd, like, you know, pump everybody's tires up in the circle just before we go out. She said her, like, you know, the processes we need to stick to, a couple of key themes, and then it was my job to like get everybody pumping and ready to go out, and that was really cool to have that belief and confidence from her. But also, that wasn't her to, like, you know, to pull everybody in, scream and shout, and, like, you know, get everybody fired. She was more of a calm leader, did her talking on the pitch, that kind of thing, was very good in front of the media and the coaches and that. Having that. The ones that don't make it are the ones that try and do everything themselves, who don't have trust in you, or if they don't have a backbone and let stronger characters bully them, or don't stand up to them when they need to. Like, you know, there's a lot of optics here. If somebody's out of line, you need to be able to pull them up. Like I said earlier, the importance of having those honest conversations. But when you see maybe a senior member not do something continuously and the coach hasn't pulled them up, you're like, well, why is that? Or how they spoke. Like, you still got to be a decent human and respect and have manners and talk to each other nicely, but also have those difficult conversations.
That leads me very nicely into my next question, because I'm going to talk about systems, because I'm going to say you could be winning every Saturday, but rot is starting to creep in, i.e. your leader, rather than like giving, you know, like having direct conversations, is starting to lower their standards and letting people be late, but you're still winning. Have you ever seen that in any of the teams that you played for? And what were the early warning signs that, yeah, we you know, we are winning, but with the standards, the rot is creeping in?
Yeah, that's it's something I've experienced a few times. You can get, like I say, a few rotten apples maybe. The hard thing is if, like, say, starting players don't get selected. I've seen it before back in the day. They haven't been selected, they're on the bench or they're not picked, and then they just start getting a bit neg-eddy in training, or they try and ruin stuff, and you can just see them trying to get one up on other people, or there's a bit of, like, chat behind people's backs and stuff. And that I'm somebody who's comfortable to go and call it out. But, you know, you get a young 19-year-old who's straight in the squad, they're going to be like, but it's up to those senior players, I guess, to be able to take that on. It's up to the coaches to take that out, because you've got to recognise it early, and whether you pull that person aside individually or you have your unit chat. So it might be forwards and backs, and forwards have this chat like it's all about everybody buying in together, and it think of the bigger picture. We're going towards the World Cup, and you see just an example of how good it was at the Women's World Cup. All those England players that weren't selected, they're on the bench, they're banging the drums, they're going mental, they're doing whatever they can for that starting England team, for those bench players, even though they're not directly on the pitch. Their part is just as important. So yeah, have those chats early, stamp it out early would be for me. And then if you need to, then if you've got to take matters into your own hands, then so be it. It's the talks, and if there's consequences as well if this starts to keep coming. So if you're winning, like, for example, we had it with a coach. We'd I think we'd beaten France by like a point out in France, and we sort of swept it under the carpet, and it was like, oh, look at us, we're amazing. And actually, like, why were we so close to losing? And it was just, I think, because they missed a kick or something that we won. And for me, that was a really worrying time. And so I went back to the leadership group and had the coaches in there and was able to have those chats. But it was frustrating that it didn't come from top down. But I guess the good thing is, from an outsider's point of view, it come from sort of middle up to question them, and actually we reviewed it properly then, rather than just like, oh well, it's all done. Like, no, learn from those, because sometimes it's you lose by 2 points, and what's that difference?
So basically, if you're like the cultural gatekeeper again, like the Roy Keane type figure, I would say, or someone within the team, if you lose respect for the leader, director of rugby, whatever, how dangerous is that then for the team? I mean, is that when you say they've lost the room? If
Yeah.
they no longer have your respect? Yeah.
Respect is a massive thing, whether you're giving it or you want it, and it's really hard to gain respect back. But equally, that even if you lose respect for a coach, there's a really fine line of keeping the room focused on what the room can do, rather than the whole room going, they didn't do that right, they're doing that, oh, they're doing this. Like, that's a really negative way to get in. As I said, it's important that you can have those honest conversations and everybody knows where you stand, but does the focus then change to how rubbish they are, rather than actually how can we make the best of this situation and keep pushing ourselves? Sometimes the drive has to come from the youngsters that are first training session in, who aren't scared, who are giving it everything, to be the motivation to push everybody that step higher, rather than it might be a coach that's not that fussed. You have a responsibility, whether you're first one through the door or you've been there for years, to keep pushing those standards up. And so the youngsters that come in, just being free and being themselves and testing the older lot, but the older lot like driving those standards as well. And if you have to let that coach do their thing and you have to do your thing, so be it. But it's about belief and buy-in, rather than that negative, because you said it can just turn into rot, and then, everyone, it's the blame game, actually, rather than keep looking at each other like, you did this, oh, it's not me, it's them. Like, well, okay, what can we do to change this?
So you obviously, I presume you know about Roy Keane and the Irish World Cup when he walked out with what's the manager's name? Fitzy, can you remember? I can't remember his name.
I can picture him, but I can't
he
think of
walked
his
out.
name. Yeah.
Yeah, and he walked out of the World Cup saying standards aren't high enough. And like, I mean, that sort of scenario, like you're saying, he would have been better just to try and raise the standards within and try to do the best of what he could do and focus that energy, rather than walk out on the Ireland World Cup team. I can't remember what year, it was a long time ago. I'm showing my age.
Yeah, I mean, there is a time when there'll be reviews, or there's a time and a place. So if somebody really isn't the right fit, and it continuously, I mean, the thing is, when you're winning, coaches don't really get questioned,
Yeah.
so can be and questions and all eyes come in when a team starts losing, and then it starts, escalating, spiraling down. But there's a time and a place where you also, like, the power of the team is, and sticking together can really be influential, and to have those conversations as well. But there's a time and a place. At the start of the World Cup, you can't, even if you get rid of the coach and you're like, oh yeah, player power, you still need that coach. It's not the right time. It's disruptive. There's a right time and a place. When you're in a thicker battle, if you're just about to go into it, you've got to do the best of what you can do, and sometimes it can make other people rise to the top. But then at the right time, you have those conversations and make those difficult decisions. I.e., it might be a coach who has to drop a player or something, or not reselect them or whatever. It's the right time and the right place, and then right, who's going to stand up when these times are difficult?
So we spoke about how the game's evolved over the last couple of decades and continues to evolve, more resources, becoming more professional. What new pressures did that evolution bring when more money, contracts, resources came into the game, in your opinion?
Yeah, it was mad because when I started, it was completely like amateur pay towards
Hmm.
your training weekends. Then we started to get like a bit of funding, bit of travel, bit of money to live off or to help. And then we didn't fully go professional until probably about my last year. And I was like, I'd have an amazing house if we went professional before that anyway, with 137 caps. But it was the but what the question I think that would be useful to know, would I change when winning the World Cup in 2014 and be the trailblazer I was, or would I change it to now? I'd still have done and lived my career path in that time. So that might show you the importance of what needed to be done then, and to breaking down barriers and inspiring and being that, the shoulders for these girls to stand on. But nowadays there's so much pressure on looking the right part. There's a lot of eyes on you, social media, cameras, like, sometimes, I mean, it's great in some respects. You can see personalities and players that might normally go under the radar, like front rows, because there's not a lot of footage or pictures of them back in the day of carrying or line breaking or scoring tries. But now there obviously is. Their personalities come into the forefront, being individuals, but comes comes a lot of criticism. Then becomes a lot of opportunity for other people. Sometimes social media isn't kind. And you can have some like little trolls who say mean things. And if you're that kind of person that takes things really personal, you can read into that, and that can make your confidence come down. So I guess, yeah, more eyes on you, sponsorships at stake, viewing numbers, then you open yourself up to a hell of a lot of criticism. But for those guys now, that's brilliant that they're able to be themselves, to get that recognition and have the support. Yeah, it's tough though. It's not all, what is it? The grass isn't always greener, as they say sometimes.
It's always not, if
Very
you
true.
excuse the pun, it's not always a bed of roses. If you excuse the pun.
Very good, like that.
Yeah. Thinking on my feet. You've already answered the next question, which is about standards. So do you want to move on, Fitzy, to section 5? Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. So before winning into the World Cup in 2014, England had lost two World Cups previously. From inside the system, what was the real difference with the World Cup winning team of 2014? Where did the teams previous to that fall short before that you finally delivered and won that World Cup?
Well, I don't think we were particularly used to being under pressure, because we won so many games leading up to the World Cup, certainly in 2010, and then we'd beaten the world champions New Zealand in 2009. So I'm not convinced we turned over every stone. So maybe like I think one of the things we spoke about post 2010 was having more structure, in terms of we were very good at playing unstructured rugby and decision making and that kind of thing, but sometimes against a really hard defence, which we hadn't played against often, literally France, New Zealand, and occasionally Canada. Or it wasn't that hard to break down teams, so it wasn't realistic. So when you play against a really hard defence, we were a bit like, oh, we're under pressure, or the passes didn't quite go to hand, or they killed the ball, or whatever. So 2014, we had those structures. We had a really set plan of how to get into them and break them down. So whether it be sort of roll around the corner, hard carries, get them on the back foot, we spin it wide, or whether we have that pod system of a 1-3-3-1 as you're spread out and who's in what pod and does what job. That's what we lacked in 2010, in my opinion, and the ability to play against harder competition. But then we didn't have that opportunity much because you'd play New Zealand or France maybe once a year. But yeah, that was the sticking point. And so for somebody like me, remember I said I played for Henley and got beat like 90-0, I'm used to that pressure. I'm used to taking it right up to the line, getting that little tip on, getting nailed. Whereas other people might panic that the defence is on them and they might not be able to get that pass away because they're like, can't do that. So, yeah, that lack of prep, but then in terms of defence and then the structure for 2014 made a huge difference.
And it's a really interesting point you touch upon there, I think, as well. I mean, you know, if you look, and you've mentioned it there, I mean, that England team had a lot of success rolling into that 2010 World Cup. You were very, very dominant in the Six Nations, et cetera, et cetera. Do you feel that disappointment of not winning again, you know, if that makes sense, fueled the changes needed to win into 2014?
Absolutely. You have to learn through losses or failure. Take obviously the good things from it, and then what can be done differently? What can we practice? What can we do to make sure everything that we have in our control is done? So whether it be training with 13 players, whether there be consequences, whether you train against men's teams, whatever it is, and have just the speed against you in the touch game or whatever, being able to execute under pressure was vital. So those learnings were massive, and that ability to know, right, we're under the cosh, people are flying up at us, what do we do now? We didn't have that. What do we do now? We had I want to try and make a difference, but we didn't have a set, blueprint of what happens next. And yeah, those learnings came from that loss. So you can absolutely turn a negative into a positive and learn from it, whether that's in business, life, rugby, whatever it is. You've got to be open to take the learnings, even though it hurts so much.
Yeah,
couldn't agree more.
Training under pressure as well. So you're training under pressure, and you've got the systems in place when you're under pressure, so things become second nature, whether that's rugby or sport, whatever you do, business. Very important point. So for people in business who've lost more than once, haven't got a pay rise, or they haven't been promoted, or their business idea has fallen through, what did those 2 World Cups teach you about preparation, patience, and timing?
Yeah, sometimes things just don't go your way, and it's whether it's an interview and you've got down to the last 2, and sometimes people just go for the other person. Sometimes the referee might not get the decision right, or might see something differently. Sometimes you cannot control that, but the stuff you can learn and control can make you better prep next time. And for me, the learnings are that there's a massive amount of that 2010 group that stayed the same to that 2014. So every working together, and to raise those standards even more. How can we absolutely push each other where we're crawling and we've been through it, and we're still encouraging each other? Come on, get up, you've got this. We used to do this awful tackle practice drill where there'd be like 15 of you lined up, and you had to just run and get tackled, get up, run and get tackled, and you were like crawling by the end, but you had to find this extra percent from somewhere. And then you've got your teammates all whooping and cheering you, and you're like, yeah, I can do this, even though I'm like crawling. So yeah, it's you learn from it, you become closer from it, you get rid of the negatives that you didn't need, and then you focus, you really zone in, you really focus into those positives, and how can we take them forward, and what can I evolve, what can I learn for us it was a 3 or 4 year cycle, but in business it might be 6 months, 2 months, 2 years, whatever it is. Is there something new that can help you get that extra step and the belief and drive?
Yeah, I mean, that just like encapsulates like a winning mindset. Rocky. You know, it's like, you know, if you believe in yourself and you believe in what you do and you keep to the systems and you look at ways to improve those systems. But one question I've got, have you ever thought, fuck it, you know, this isn't working. You know, these systems aren't working. Have you ever ripped up the sheet and started again? Excuse my language. Sorry, Fitzy.
Oh, no, it's all good. So yeah, sometimes there's like, for example, there's a game plan and your coach has told you, instilled this in, blah blah blah. Sometimes people are just having an off day, so it might be you're gonna hit up through the centres, but your centre has got like their hands sellotape together and they're dropping everything. Like, so you need to be able to grab the game by the scruff of their neck and say, right, we've got to change this. The ability to make those decisions under pressure in the thick of it is a really hard skill. But once you've got it and you get that feel and you know what will make a difference, you've got to run with it. You take the consequences if it doesn't work, but you've got to have shoulders big enough to take those consequences. What's not working now isn't going to win you that game, but what the change could win you that game. And it's like pivoting, I guess, in business where you've got to go, right, this isn't working. Can we change how we're marketing it, branding it, or something else we need in, or the face that's selling it, whatever it is. Sometimes you just need change, and people are brave enough to make that decision. Out there, and how do I define?
So I said, after everything, all the success you've had, the caps, the wins, the sacrifices you've made along your journey, how do you define success today?
Success today, for me personally, right now. Yeah. Okay. Success for me is feeling that I'm making a difference, that I'm authentically me, and that I'm still pushing myself to keep striving, to keep learning, keep evolving, keep growing, but also being comfortable in the here and now and being present, which is something I've really had to work at because everything was so driven. But it's important to reflect and be in the moment. Like, for example, you go to a concert and everyone's filming it through their phone and you're looking through the screen of the phone. You could have done that at home and watched the concert on the TV. Actually, can you be in the moment right now, dancing, having a great crack, laughing, being being swept up in that aura around you, or can you just be a watcher? Like, and I've learned that to be in the here and now, to be in that present, to obviously make memories. You might take a quick video or a quick snapshot, but don't film the whole thing. Actually take part.
Yeah, I know. I
Good
never get that
advice.
with the filming of everything. So, last question for me before Fitzy goes into a few quick fire questions. We spoke about this before we started recording. Like Harvard, McKinsey, they're investing hundreds of millions into this because like over 50% of senior female business executives play sport, and they're using it. They're using the messaging of sport as a microscope to train female business leaders, and like you pretty much demonstrated throughout this podcast, like you're an encyclopedia for that sort of knowledge. But what would be the one business tip that you could give any female now in business that you could take from sport directly into their office today?
Absolutely. Own your space. Be you. And even though it's going to be hard along the journey, you've got this belief in yourself and keep moving forward. Eyes forward. Occasionally, yeah, it's all right to look back, see where you've come from, but keep moving forward. But every so often when you move forward, take a breath, see where you are, be in the moment, and then what's next. Definitely.
Excellent. So, Rocky, we're into the quick fire questions here. Don't overthink it. First one word that explains how you stayed at the top for so long.
Only one
Hunger.
word.
Hunger. Okay. One standard you never compromised, even when no one was watching.
Given it in the gym, 100%. Like just whatever I do, whether I carry a ball into contact, run as hard as I can, push the weight as fast as I can, or as heavy as I can, or rest as hard as I can. But don't be comfortable with giving 80%, 100%.
Good advice. One myth about women in high performance environments you want to kill.
They're just making up the numbers, like just owning in your space. It's not women's rugby or women in business. It's about the right person for the job, and we talk about business, we talk about rugby, we talk about sport.
A harder pressure, a World Cup final, or carrying responsibility without authority?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think the more World Cup finals you play and the more pressure that comes. So it's probably going to be that, but there's a mighty weight on the other one as well.
Fair enough. One piece of advice you'd give a woman who's tired of proving herself?
Let let your ability show itself by even if you don't feel like it, where we talked about that imposter syndrome, let yourself be the life and soul. Don't feel you have to blend in, and keep talk to the right people. Make sure you've got a really good support network around you. Get other women or men or co-workers or family, people that are going to help pump your tires up, and you need to do the same for them, and celebrate what you have done, because it's really hard to go, I keep getting overlooked because of XYZ. Actually, where am I now? Can you pivot? Okay, what's the next thing? Can I pivot? Can I go that way to where I want to go? The path isn't easy. That's why, the mountain, when you get to the top of the mountain, it's really difficult to climb because the elements are a lot harder, whether it's the weather or the gradient or whatever. Those are the times you have to keep pushing on. But when you get to the top, the view is worth it. So just keep knowing your worth, keep pushing forward.
Competition
Good
never
advice.
stops. It gets harder and harder and harder. Of pressure.
Absolutely
Exactly.
does, yeah. And just keep remembering why you're doing it. What's your purpose? And why are you so bloody good at it?
Rocky, this has been an absolute pleasure. It's such an interesting conversation. So many nuggets of gold there. You built a career over a very long period on incredibly high standards. And this is going to be such gold for our listeners. Thank you so much for joining us on The Business End, and wishing you every success with your career in comms as you move forward.
Thanks very much. It's been a pleasure to chat to you guys.
Yeah, thank you, Rocky. Very, very inspirational.
Bless you. That's really kind.